The storm rolled across the frontier like a wounded beast, its growls echoing across the empty plains as lightning snapped through the sky. Jonah Hale, lonely cowboy, drifting ranch hand, and a man whose past had more scars than stories, was heading home after a long day on the range when he spotted something that made him pull his horse to a dead halt. Out there, in the middle of the beaten trail, stood a young Apache girl. Thin, trembling, soaked through with rain, clutching a torn blanket around her shoulders. She couldn't have been more than 18. Her long black hair stuck to her face, and her eyes carried the kind of fear Jonah recognized instantly. The fear of someone who had lost everything in one brutal moment. Jonah dismounted slowly, raising his hands so she could see he meant no harm. The girl didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. She looked at him like anyone else in this world had only ever hurt her. "Name's Jonah," he said gently. "Storm's bad tonight. You'll freeze out here." She responded with silence, her gaze shifting toward the dark woods behind her, like someone or something had chased her all the way to this lonely trail. Jonah shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. She stiffened but didn't pull away. "You can ride with me till we figure out where home is," he murmured. When she finally whispered her name, Neely, it cracked like a branch in the wind. Jonah lifted her onto his horse and rode back to his small cabin. Neely barely spoke that night, warming her hands by the fire, watching every shadow like it might lunge at her. Jonah tried not to pry, but her trembling told him one thing: something terrible had happened. Over the next 2 days, she recovered little by little, eating the stew he cooked, helping him feed the horses, even smiling once when his old hound dogger tried stealing her boots. Jonah found himself noticing things he didn't expect: how carefully she worked, how strong she was despite the fear she carried, how the sadness in her eyes was miles deep. On the 4th morning, Jonah heard horse hooves thunder outside. He rushed for his rifle, but Neely froze and whispered, "Mother." Before Jonah could ask what she meant, the door swung open, and there she stood, an Apache woman with a bow in her hand, rain-slick black hair, fierce eyes, and a presence that swallowed the entire room. She was beautiful in a way that punched the breath from Jonah's chest. Her gaze went straight to her daughter, then to Jonah, sharp as a blade but filled with gratitude. "I am Ayana," she said softly. "You saved my child." Jonah swallowed, suddenly aware of how rough and dusty he must look. The woman carried the strength of a warrior, the grace of a mother, and the sorrow of someone who had survived battles both seen and unseen. She explained that raiders had attacked their traveling band, scattering the survivors. Neely had run, terrified and alone, believing her mother dead. Ayana had been tracking her for 2 days. Jonah listened, feeling something stir inside him, a strange warmth, a pull he hadn't felt in years. Ayana thanked him again, her voice steady but her eyes softening when they landed on him. Jonah didn't know why, but he felt as if fate had just stepped through his doorway. He thought his lonely cabin would feel emptier once the two left, but that night, as the fire burned low and the storm faded, Ayana placed a hand on his arm and said, "You protected what is most precious to me. I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid in words." Jonah looked into her eyes and felt something dangerous, something sweet, something alive. Ayana and Neely planned to leave by sunrise, but when dawn broke over the plains, the world refused to cooperate. A thick fog descended across Jonah's land, swallowing the trail and blanketing everything in ghost white silence. Ayana agreed they should wait a day. That single day changed everything. While Neely rested and helped Jonah's horse, Ayana walked the ranch perimeter with him, silent at first, then opening up little by little. Jonah learned she'd lost her husband years ago. She'd led her people from one safe place to another, fighting to protect her daughter from the violence that haunted the frontier. Jonah told her about his own loneliness, the battles he'd fought, the people he'd buried, the home he once dreamed of building but never found the courage to start. Ayana listened like no one ever had, her eyes filled with understanding deeper than words. As the day passed, Jonah felt something blossom between them, soft, undeniable, terrifying. That evening Neely cooked with Jonah while Ayana sat by the fire, watching the two laugh like family. For the first time in years, Jonah felt warmth in his home. Not from the fire, but from the presence of these two souls who had walked into his life by accident, or maybe by destiny. But fate wasn't done testing them. As night fell, hoofbeats thundered outside. The same raiders who had attacked Ayana's band. They had tracked her. Jonah grabbed his rifle. Ayana grabbed her bow. Neely hid behind the stone hearth. What followed was a battle that stretched across the ranch, The crack of gunfire, the hiss of arrows, the roar of Jonah's shotgun. The fierce cry of Ayanna fighting like a storm unleashed. When it ended, the raiders were driven off, but Jonah had taken a bullet to the shoulder. Ayanna rushed to him, pressing her hands to the wound, her breath shaking. "You fool," she whispered, tears threatening her fierce composure. "Why would you risk your life for us?" Jonah answered through clenched teeth. "Because you're worth fighting for. Both of you." She looked at him, really looked at him. And in that moment, her expression changed from guarded strength to something tender. She whispered, "Jonah, your heart is braver than any warrior I've known." She stayed by his side all night, tending to him, her hands gentle, her presence soothing in a way he'd never imagined possible. When sunrise painted the horizon gold, Nayeli was asleep in a chair and Jonah woke to find Ayanna watching him, her hand still resting on his. "We will not leave today," she said quietly. "My daughter is safe because of you. And my heart." She hesitated, then smiled, the smallest, most beautiful smile Jonah had ever seen. "My heart has found peace here." Jonah felt the truth settle deep inside him. They weren't meant to pass through his life. They were meant to become part of it. As the three shared breakfast that morning, the cabin felt different. Full, alive, like a home finally found. And if you're enjoying these deep, emotional Western stories full of fate, danger, and unexpected love, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world and helps bring more powerful stories your way.